"You're going to retire me," Pep Guardiola once muttered to a young prospect. But this lad is going to retire us all. To understand that prediction, you have to look at the landscape of late 90s football. The midfield was a war zone. It was dominated by massive, hyper-athletic bruisers. Managers wanted towering figures who could win headers and throw brutal, heavy tackles and outmuscle the opposition for 90 full minutes. Size and raw power were the ultimate currency. Then came the first anomaly, a kid named Xavi Hernández. At 5'7", he was entirely unimposing. He didn't have sprint speed, and he certainly wasn't going to win any physical brawls in the center of the pitch. Instead, his survival relied on a hyper-developed sense of spatial awareness. The lad Guardiola warned about was even less likely to survive the 90s midfield. Andrés Iniesta arrived in Barcelona from the tiny town of Fuentealbilla at just 12 years old. He was so severely shy and nervous that on his very first day, he got entirely lost trying to find the changing room. A teammate literally had to go track him down in the hallways. Put simply, neither of these two players could outmuscle the reigning giants of the sport. The math of physical confrontation would never work. So they were forced to engineer a completely different solution. They had to figure out how to outthink the giants. That engineering process happened right here at Barcelona's famed academy, La Masia. Kept away from the physical demands of the first team, these two were given the space to incubate a radical new philosophy. Inside those walls, their peers quickly figured out exactly what they were looking at. They gave them locker room monikers that stuck. Xavi was dubbed Maki, short for Máquina, the machine. Iniesta was given the title Cerebro, the brain. Those weren't just affectionate jokes from teenagers. They were hyper-accurate descriptions of two interlocking gears, a machine and a brain that were about to dictate the rhythm of global football. The peak of this experiment arrived from 2008 onward, under the very man who predicted their takeover, Pep Guardiola. Inside the Camp Nou, their contrasting styles merged into a single tactical weapon. Xavi operated exactly as his nickname suggested. He was the metronome. He positioned himself in tiny pockets of space, rapidly scanning the pitch to dictate the spatial geometry and tempo of every single match. He moved the ball with a mechanical precision that neutralized larger, faster opponents before they could even initiate a tackle. Just look at this chart tracking his offensive output. It tallies roughly 184 career assists across all competitions. That entire towering bar isn't built on flashy, chaotic runs. It is constructed entirely on ruthless, calculated passing efficiency. But mechanical control is only half the equation. If Xavi provided the static, suffocating control, Iniesta provided the chaos. He was the line breaker. When a packed defense refused to open up, Iniesta would simply carry the ball 15 or 20 yards straight through the teeth of the opposition. Using nothing but extreme balance and rapid footwork, he could bypass an entire midfield on his own, laying the ball off at the exact moment the defensive structure collapsed. This is exactly why they became unplayable. If an opposing team tried to press high and swarm Xavi, Iniesta would just dribble right through the gaps they left behind. If they terrified you into dropping back to defend the dribble, Xavi had all the time in the world to surgically dissect your back line. But there was one structural vulnerability. For the machine and the brain to push forward, someone had to watch their backs. That job fell to Sergio Busquets. By acting as the ultimate defensive anchor, Busquets allowed Xavi and Iniesta to focus entirely on their roles at the heart of the attack. With the trio locked in place, Barcelona deployed tiki-taka. It was a possession-based system built on short, high-speed, relentless passing triangles. This hexagonal radar chart lights up to track the immediate result: Barcelona's unprecedented 2009 calendar year. 6 available trophies, 6 nodes lit up. The sextuple. No club in the history of the sport had ever achieved it. The intricate passing sequences of tiki-taka served a cold defensive purpose. While the style appeared to be a purely aesthetic attacking choice, it functioned as an incredibly effective method of suppression. By hoarding the ball for 70 to 80% of a match, they transformed possession itself into a shield. You don't need tall, bruising center backs if the opponent never gets the ball. Elite strikers spent entire afternoons chasing shadows, starved into total irrelevance. The ultimate stress test for this philosophy wasn't going to happen in club football. It had to happen on the international stage. Between 2008 and 2012, this Barcelona midfield migrated directly into the Spanish national team, taking tiki-taka with them. This data visualization contrasts the total tournament goals of past World Cup winners against Spain's 2010 run. Notice how low Spain's bar is. They won the biggest tournament on earth, scoring a total of just 8 goals. Look at this gauge tracking Xavi's performance to see how they survived that razor-thin margin. Under extreme World Cup pressure, facing the best athletes on the planet, his pass completion rate locked in at an absurd 91%. All of this culminated in Johannesburg, the 2010 World Cup final against the Netherlands. It was a notoriously brutal physical match. Extra time was ticking away, and the score was locked at 0-0. The ball found its way into the penalty area, bouncing up perfectly, and it was the brain, Andrés Iniesta, who struck it. A dramatic late winner ripping into the back of the net, giving Spain their first ever World Cup title. That single strike was the final undeniable proof. A tactical ideology based entirely on geometry, intelligence, and ball retention had just conquered the entire world. Eventually, the partnership had to wind down, sending them on wildly different paths. Xavi departed in 2015 for Qatar, later returning to Barcelona as head coach to guide a new generation, securing a La Liga title from the sidelines in 2023. Iniesta, surprisingly, outlasted nearly everyone. He stayed 2 years longer at Barcelona before moving overseas to Vissel Kobe in Japan, extending his professional career deep into his late 30s, long after his physical prime had faded. In October 2024, and 40 years old, he officially called it a day. Breaking down in tears, he looked back on his journey, calling himself that boy from a small town. The nervous kid who got lost in the hallways had evolved into a global phenomenon. Xavi and Iniesta retired with every major trophy in the game, leaving behind a blueprint for a style of football where technical proficiency overrides physical dominance. They demonstrated that the center of the pitch can be controlled through vision and timing, rather than just size and strength. So, between the metronome and the magician, who do you think was actually the superior player? Let me know your pick down in the comments.